Section 42 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Stacey M. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. List of forms referred to in the preceding regulations by C.A. Harris. To be used in preparing and rendering accounts for disbursements and other statements required of the agents, etc. 1. Voucher. 2. Abstract for disbursements for current expenses. 3. Abstract for disbursements for treaty stipulations. 4. Account current. 5. Receipt roll for paying Indian annuities to heads of families. 6. Abstract of articles purchased for Indians. 7. Abstract of articles delivered to Indians. 8. Return of property received and issued to Indians. 9. Return of property in charge of agents. 10. General Annual Abstract of Disbursements. 11. Statement of Persons Employed. 12. Monthly Statement of Letters Received. These forms are given merely as examples and are applicable to special cases only. The other returns, statements, etc. required by these regulations may be made in forms analogous to these. C.A. Harris, Commissioner, Indian Affairs. Office, Indian Affairs, June 1, 1837. End of Section 42.
Section 43 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 1, Voucher. The United States debit to blank. Series of 5 blank columns. Note: if for services rendered, state the nature, period, rate of pay, authority for employment, by whom last paid, and for what period and amount. If for articles, state the quantity, price, of whom purchased, and amount paid. End of table. I certify on honor that the above account is correct, and that blank dollars are due to blank, which you will pay upon this my requisition. To blank, military disbursing agent. Received of blank, military disbursing agent, the sum of blank dollars in full of this account. End of Section 43. Read by stepheather, Bangalore, India, 24th of January, 2025. Section 44 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 2, Abstract for Disbursements for Current Expenses. Abstract of disbursements made by blank, military disbursing agent, for the blank agency, in the quarter ending blank 1830 blank for current expenses. Series of columns. Dates, number voucher, names, for what paid, heads of account, with subcolumns, pay of agents, subagents, interpreters, blank. Series of totals for heads of account, pay of agents, subagents, interpreters, and blank. Amount, on hand and received during the quarter, balance applicable to next quarter. End of table. Approved, blank. Presiding Military Disbursing Officer, Superintending. Note: to embrace pay of agents, sub-agents, and interpreters, presents, provisions, transportation, and incidental expenses and contingencies for each agency or sub-agency. End of Section 44. Read by StepHeather, Bangalore, India, 17th February, 2025. Section 45 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 3. Abstract for Disbursements for Treaty Stipulations. Abstract of disbursements made by blank, military disbursing agent, for the blank agency, in the quarter ending blank, 1830 blank, for treaty stipulations. Series of columns. Dates, number voucher, names, for what paid, heads of account, with subcolumns, annuity, blacksmiths, farmers, and 2 blank columns. Totals for the heads of account, annuity, blacksmiths, farmers, and 2 blank columns. Amount, on hand and received during the quarter, balance applicable to next quarter. End of table. Approved by blank, presiding military disbursing officer. Note: separate abstracts of the disbursements for each tribe to include annuity and treaty stipulations of all kinds. End of Section 45. Read by StepHeather, Bangalore, India, 17th February, 2025. Section 46 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 4. Account Current. The United States in account with blank, military disbursing agent for the blank agency for the quarter ending blank, 1830 blank. Debit, date, 1 large blank column, 2 small blank columns for recording amounts. Credit, date, 1 large blank column, 2 small blank columns for recording amounts. Note: credit the sums to be accounted for and charge the abstracts of disbursements for current expenses and for treaty stipulations to each tribe separately, the balance to show the sum under each head of account applicable to payments in next quarter. End table. I certify on honor that the above account is just and true as stated, that the disbursements have been faithfully made for the objects expressed in the vouchers, and that the accounts given embrace all public money received by me and not heretofore accounted for. End of Section 46. Read by StepHeather, Bangalore, India, 6th of March, 2025. Section 47 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 5. Receipt Roll for Paying Indian Annuities to Heads of Families. We, the chiefs, warriors, heads of families, and individuals without families of the blank tribe of Indians within the blank agency acknowledge the receipt of blank dollars of blank military disbursing agent in the sums appended to our names, being our proportion of the annuity due said tribe for the year 1830 blank. Series of 5 columns. Names, marks, families, with subcolumns men, women, children, total. Distributive shares, with subcolumns dollars, cents. Amount paid, with subcolumns dollars, cents. Note: State the names of the persons to be paid with the number of their family, if any, and amount paid to each head of a family or individual, whether in money or goods. If paid to chiefs, by order of council, a simple receipt for the gross amount paid is all that is required. End table. We certify that we were present at the payment of the above-mentioned amounts and saw the amount paid to the several Indians in blank, and that their signatures or marks were affixed in our presence this blank day of blank, 1830 blank. Space with a bracket for signatures. We, the undersigned chiefs of the blank tribe of Indians within the blank agency, acknowledge the correctness of the foregoing receipts. End of section 47. Read by Stepheather, Bangalore, India, 20th of March, 2025. Section 48 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 6, Abstract of Articles Purchased for Indians. Abstract of Articles purchased for blank for the Indians within the blank agency in the quarter ending blank 1830 blank. Series of columns. Date, number voucher, names, amounts, articles purchased, with 7 sub-columns, corn, bushels, pork, pounds, and 5 blank columns. Note: the abstract to show the date of whom purchased and amount. The several articles with their quantity to be placed under appropriate heads. End of table. I certify on honor that the above enumerated articles for blank were purchased, under contract, or in the markets. End of section 48. Read by Stepheather, Bangalore, India, 27th March, 2025. Section 49 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 7, Abstract of Articles Delivered to Indians. Abstract of Articles for blank delivered to the Indians within the blank agency in the quarter ending blank 1830 blank. Series of 5 columns. Date, number voucher, names, amount, articles delivered, with sub-columns, corn, bushels, pork, pounds, and 5 blank columns. End table. I certify that the above-mentioned articles were issued to the Indians as stated in our presence. Note: when articles for provision or presents are delivered to Indians or transferred to agents, the abstract should show the dates, to whom, and the amount, the articles and quantity delivered or transferred to be placed under appropriate heads. End of section 49. Read by Stepheather, Bangalore, India, 7th of April, 2025.
Section 50 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 8. Return of property received and issued to Indians. Return of property received and issued by blank within the blank agency in the quarter ending blank 1830 blank. Series of columns. Dates, number of voucher, from whom received, articles, subcolumns, iron, pounds, steel, pounds, horses, number, cattle, number, plows, number, hose, number, axes, number, blank columns. Next row, to whom issued, same subcolumns. I certify on honor that the above return is correct and embraces all the articles of property received and issued by me in the quarter blank, ending blank 1830 blank. Note: returns of property to be rendered quarterly, showing by whom received and when, enumerating the articles with their quantity under appropriate heads, also when distributed or delivered, and to whom. The return to embrace any description of property in charge for public use. End of section 50. Read by Sandra, near Montreal, 2025. Section 51 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 9. Return of Property in Charge of Agents. Statement of all fixed property with its appendages in charge of blank at the blank on the blank 1830 blank. Series of columns. For whose or what use? Cost. Specific property, subcolumns, mills, schoolhouses, smith shops, 3 blank columns, remarks. Note: an immediate return of property in charge of Indian agents is required to embrace all kinds of buildings as agency houses, Indian mills, schoolhouses, shops, etc., subject to repairs at public cost, also of farms, farming utensils, stock, etc., for which the government is responsible, to be afterwards furnished annually. Under the head of Remarks, state the condition, etc., of the property. End of section 51. Section 52 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 10. General Annual Abstract of Disbursements. General Abstract of Disbursements made by blank military disbursing agent within the blank agency for the year ending blank 1830 blank. 3 columns. To whom paid, for what paid, amount. End of section 52. Section 53 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 11. Statement of Persons Employed. Statement of all persons employed within the blank agency in the quarter ending blank. 5 columns. Number, names, date of service, employment, compensation allowed. I hereby certify on honor that the above statement is correct. Note: to be prepared by a superintendent, agent, or subagent. End of section 53. Section 54 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form number 12. Monthly Statement of Letters Received. Statement of letters received during the month of blank, 1830 blank, by blank. 7 columns. Date of letters received, from whom received, brief of contents, when received, date of answer, brief of answer, remarks. End of section 54.
Section 55 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Revised Regulations Number 4. Concerning Trade and Intercourse with Indian Tribes by J.R. Poinsett. Adopted June 18, 1837. 1. Licenses to trade with the Indians. 1. Applications for licenses to trade with the Indians will be made to either the Superintendent of Indian Affairs, the Indian Agent, or Sub-Agent. 2. No license to trade with the tribes east of the Mississippi will be granted for a term exceeding 2 years, nor with the tribes west of that river for a term exceeding 3 years. 3. Suitable and convenient places at which the trade shall be carried on will be designated by the person granting the license and inserted in it. 4. No license will be granted to a person of bad character or to one whom it would be improper to permit to reside in the Indian country or to one whose prior license had been revoked. 5. Applicants for licenses will give bond in a penal sum not exceeding $5,000, with one or more sureties to be approved by the person granting it, and conditioned that the applicant will faithfully observe the laws and regulations made for the government of trade and intercourse with the Indian tribes, and in no respect violate the same. 6. Any license may be revoked whenever, in the opinion of the person granting it, the laws or regulations have been transgressed by the person holding it, or it would be improper to permit him to remain in the Indian country. 7. No license will be granted to trade, nor will any trade be permitted with any tribe, intercourse with whom shall have been prohibited by the President. 8. No license to trade will be granted to any persons except citizens of the United States. 9. A license to trade will not authorize the introduction or sale of any spirituous, liquor, or wine into the Indian country, except such supplies as shall be necessary for the officers of the United States and troops of the service, nor the setting up or continuing of a distillery therein. 10. The right of appeal to the War Department will be reserved to any person whose application for a license has been refused, or whose license has been revoked. 11. Persons granting, refusing, or revoking licenses will report their proceedings forthwith to the War Department for approval or disapproval. 12. These reports will exhibit the dates of the licenses, the names of the persons to whom issued, and of their sureties, the terms of each, the amount of the bonds, and of the capital employed, and the district of country for which granted. They will be accompanied by a certificate that the persons to whom the licenses have been issued are citizens of the United States, and they will show the applications for licenses that have been refused and the licenses revoked, with the reasons for refusing or revoking. They will also show the number of foreign boatmen and interpreters employed under the special provision of the 5th section of this Act. 13. All merchandise offered for sale to the Indians or found in the possession of a white person in the Indian country without a license will be forfeited, and they will be secured by the proper superintendent, agent, or sub-agent, by whom legal proceedings to recover the penalty imposed in the 4th section will be instituted and prosecuted in the manner prescribed in the 28th section of this Act. 2. Passports to foreigners. 14. Passports will be granted by either the War Department, the superintendent, agent, sub-agent, or officer in command at the nearest military post. 15. They will express the objects of the persons to whom granted, the time they will be allowed to remain, and the routes they are to travel. 16. Foreigners found in the Indian country without passports, or remaining therein intentionally after the expiration of their passports, will be removed by the proper superintendent, agent, or officer, who will call to his aid military force when necessary, and institute legal proceedings to recover the penalty imposed in the 6th section in the manner prescribed in the 27th section. 3. Intercourse with the Indians. 17. No barter or trade with, or receiving as a pledge from Indians, for or of a gun, trap, or other articles commonly used in hunting, any instrument of farming, cooking utensil, or article of clothing, except skins and furs, will be permitted. 18. No person will be permitted, without the consent of the Indians, to drive or otherwise convey any stock of horses, mules, or cattle, to range or feed on any lands belonging to Indians. 19. No person will be permitted to settle on any lands belonging, secured, or granted to Indians, to attempt the survey of such lands, or designate any of the boundaries thereof by marking trees or otherwise. 20. No person, not acting under the authority of the United States, or as an agent of a state to the extent pointed out in the proviso of the 12th section of this Act, will be permitted to hold any treaty with Indians for the purchase, grant, lease, or other conveyance of lands, or of any title or claim thereto. 21. No citizen or other person residing in the United States will be permitted to hold any communication with Indians, for himself or for others, with an intent to disturb the execution of any treaty or measure proposed by the government, the peace of the United States, or to injure its interests. 22. The proper superintendent, agent, or subagent will remove persons violating either of the preceding regulations in the manner prescribed in the 23rd section, and institute legal proceedings to recover the penalties imposed in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th sections in the manner prescribed in the 27th section of this Act, and make full reports of all cases of violations to the War Department. 4. Injuries of whites to the property or persons of Indians. 23. To bring the crime, offense, or misdemeanor within the purview of the law, it must be committed in the Indian country and on the property or person of a friendly Indian. 24. Whenever the right of property is involved, the burden of proof shall rest with the white person whenever the Indian shall make out a presumption of title in himself. 25. Legal proceedings will be instituted in the manner pointed out in the 27th section. 26. Upon conviction being had for an injury to property, the party offending shall pay to the Indian owner twice the value of the property taken, injured, or destroyed. If he is unable, the United States shall pay to the Indian the full value, and the same amount if the offender cannot be apprehended and tried. 27. Upon conviction being had for an injury to the person of an Indian, the offender shall be sentenced according to the laws of the United States, which by the 25th section are extended to the Indian country. 28. The United States will not remunerate the Indian in the manner above indicated, if he or any of the nation to which he belongs shall have sought private revenge, or attempted to obtain satisfaction by force or violence, nor shall the offender, in that event, be liable to the provisions of the 25th section. 5. Depredations of Indians on the property of white persons. 29. It must be shown either that the property has been taken by force or with intent to steal, or that it has been maliciously destroyed, and that the person to whom it belonged was lawfully within the Indian country, that is, with a license to trade, a passport, or the permission of the proper Indian authorities. 30. Applications for remuneration must be made by the owner, his representative, attorney, or agent to the proper superintendent, agent, or subagent within 3 years after the commission of the injury. 31. The necessary documents and proofs must accompany the application. 32. Oaths may be administered and depositions taken by the proper superintendent, agent, or subagent. Whenever the Indian can make out a presumption of title in himself, from the fact of previous possession or ownership, the burden of proof will rest on the white person. 33. The application, documents, and proof must then be transmitted by the superintendent, agent, or subagent to the War Department for the direction of the President. 34. Whenever directed by him, a demand will be made by the superintendent, agent, or subagent upon the nation or tribe to which the Indian or Indians committing the injury belonged for satisfaction. 35. From the making of such demand of satisfaction, the, quote, reasonable time, end quote, not exceeding 12 months, will be computed. 36. If within that time the Indian nation or tribe shall refuse or neglect to make satisfaction, the superintendent, agent, or subagent will make return of his doings to the War Department, accompanied by the papers connected with the case, that such further steps may be taken as shall be proper, in the opinion of the President, to obtain satisfaction for the injury. 37. Every person making application to the agent for indemnification for injuries committed by Indians upon his property will be required to make affidavit that neither himself, his representative, attorney, or agent has violated the provisions of this law by seeking or attempting to obtain private satisfaction or revenge. Evidence of such, quote, seeking or attempting, end quote, if communicated to the superintendent, agent, or subagent, will make a part of the return of his doings herein before required. 38. When, by the direction of the President, claims for indemnification presented and acted upon in the manner herein prescribed are paid out of the annuities of the Indian nation or tribe, triplicate receipts will be taken from the person receiving such payment, expressing the nature and circumstances thereof. One of these receipts will be kept by the superintendent, agent, or subagent, one delivered to the proper authorities of the tribe, one transmitted to the War Department as a voucher belonging to the abstract of the payment of the annuities. 6. Introductions, sale, or manufacture of spirituous liquors or wine. 39. The sale, exchange, gift, barter, or other disposition of spirituous liquor or wine must be to an Indian and in the Indian country to bring it within the purview of the law. 40. The suspicion that a person is about to introduce or has introduced spirituous liquor or wine must be a reasonable suspicion. 41. The search for spirituous liquor or wine will be made by the superintendent, agent, subagent, or military officer, who will seize them when found and proceed against them by libel in the proper court or destroy them. 42. Military force may be employed to apprehend persons violating these regulations and to make the search above prescribed, but no person so apprehended shall be detained longer than 5 days, and he shall be treated with all the humanity circumstances will permit. 43. The proper superintendent, agent, or subagent will forthwith destroy and break up any distillery for manufacturing ardent spirit within his district, and, if necessary, he will apply for military aid. Legal proceedings to recover the penalty prescribed in the 20th and 21st sections will be instituted by him in the manner pointed out in the 27th section of this Act. 44. The persons making seizures will report to the War Department every case, stating the kinds, quantities, and values of the liquors or wines seized, the dates of the seizures, the persons by whom and from whom taken, the places of deposit, the legal proceedings in relation to them, the expense thereof, the decision of the court, and the ultimate disposition of the articles. 45. The military officer commanding the district, or the nearest military post, will comply with the requisitions of the superintendent, agent, or subagent for aid to enable them to carry into effect these regulations in the cases indicated herein and in the 23rd section of the Act to regulate trade and intercourse of June 30th, 1834. J.R. Poinsett, Secretary of War, War Department, June 18th, 1837. End of Section 55. Read by Elsie Selwyn. Section 56 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Revised Regulations. Number 5. Concerning the Emigration of Indians by J.R. Poinsett. Adopted May 13, 1837. The removal and subsistence of Indians have been committed to the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, and the following regulations for conducting that service and for the accountability therein are adopted, by which all officers and agents will be governed, and to which they will strictly conform. Officers and Agents. 1. The officers and agents who will be employed in the removal and subsistence of Indians, according to the requirements of the particular service, are as follows. 1. Superintendents. 2. Assistant superintendents. 3. Enrolling agents. 4. Conductors. 5. Assistant conductors. 6. Interpreters. 7. Physicians. 2. The superintendent will superintend the removal of each tribe or of the Indians within certain specified limits. To him will be committed the general operations, comprehending the duties and conduct of the various persons employed, the preparatory arrangements, the enrollment and collection of the Indians, the route, the mode of traveling, their movement and subsistence, and generally everything connected with this object. 3. All persons appointed by the government to aid in the business of removal will report to and receive the instructions of the superintendent, and, with the exception of dispersing agents, may be suspended by him from employment for causes appearing to him to be just. But the same shall be immediately reported to the War Department for its consideration and decision. 4. Each superintendent shall immediately, upon entering upon his duties, or whenever thereafter it may become necessary to employ assistants, submit to the Commissioner of Indian Affairs the names of the persons proposed to be employed, the nature of the duties to be assigned to them, and the amount of compensation proposed to be given. No person shall be employed except temporarily and from necessity, without the previous sanction of the department. Appointments of this nature will sometimes be made by this department, of which due notice will be given. 5. The superintendents will communicate to the Commissioner of Indian Affairs every occurrence, the knowledge of which can be useful. They will make weekly reports of their progress and operations. They will certify the quarterly abstracts of the dispersing officers. They will, at least once a quarter, transmit a statement of the names, stations, employment, and compensation of the various persons in service, and the business they have performed during the preceding quarter. They will, from time to time, furnish the dispersing officers with such information as may enable the latter to prepare and forward the requisite estimates. They will make requisitions upon the dispersing officers for payments for services and supplies, and will be held accountable for errors and inaccuracies therein, except those of calculation. 6. The assistant superintendents will aid the superintendent in the discharge of his duties, and carry into effect such instructions as may be given by him in relation to emigration. 7. Enrolling agents will, under the supervision and direction of the superintendent, enroll the Indians for emigration. 8. Conductors will take charge of emigrating parties on the route, and will have the entire control of their respective parties, and may direct as to the marching and halting and periods of rest, the time and places of issuing provision, the transportation of the sick and feeble, and of the baggage, and they will see that the parties are kept together so that no straggler shall be left, and that subsistence is distributed so that each individual shall be supplied, and that the comfort of the Indians is properly attended to, in conformity with these regulations or special instructions from the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, or from the Superintendent. He will keep a journal, in which will be entered a daily memorandum of the number of miles traveled, of the impediments, if any, which prevented more rapid progress, of the time of marching and encamping if by land, of the nature and subsistence and mode of obtaining it, and of every other occurrence that may enable the government to form a judgment of the mode in which the business has been done, which journal he will forward to the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. 9. Assistant conductors will be under the directions of the conductor while on the route, and will aid him in the discharge of his duties, and will obey such directions as he may give in relation thereto. 10. Interpreters will be the medium of communication between the officers and agents of the government and the Indians. They will be subject to the direction of the superintendent, and, when accompanying emigrating parties, will be under the direction of the conductor. 11. Physicians will be charged with all things relating to the medical service in emigration, and will be divided into two classes, namely directing physicians and attending physicians. Directing physicians will have the general supervision and direction of the medical department of a tribe, will be charged with supplying medicines under the supervision of the superintendent, and will superintend the service of the attending physicians. Attending physicians will accompany parties and perform all services in the line of their profession which may be required. The directing physicians will, where it may be necessary, perform the duties of attending physicians. 12. The officers of the quartermaster and commissary's department will, at their several stations, perform such occasional service in receiving and forwarding provisions, goods, and other properties, providing transportation for the same, and in disbursing money as may become necessary in the prosecution of the business of emigration of Indians, in which the Commission of Indian Affairs may require them to perform. Compensation. 13. The following will be the compensation of the different officers and agents employed in the removal and subsistence of Indians, and will be in full of all expenses and services whatever. A superintendent, $2,000 per annum. Assistant superintendent, $4 per day. Enrolling agent, $4 per day. Conductor, when not an officer of the Army, $5 per day. Assistant conductor, $3 per day. Interpreter, $2.50 per day. Directing physician, $6 per day. Attending physician, $5 per day. 14. Persons employed in collecting Indians, taking charge of teams, and other duties of a similar nature, will not be allowed more than $2.50 per day, to include their expenses, and laborers will be employed agreeably to the custom of the place where their services are wanted. 15. No horses will be purchased or supplied by the United States for the use of those who are engaged in this business, but the compensation allowed them will be in full for all services and expenses of every nature and description, excepting while such persons accompany a detachment of Indians, their actual transportation and subsistence will be paid, and 10 cents per mile, computing by the nearest route, will be allowed for their return, but this article will not extend to expresses. 16. It is to be distinctly understood that persons engaged in this duty will travel from place to place wherever required, finding their own horses and bearing all their expenses, with the single exception stated in the preceding article when they are ordered to accompany a detachment of Indians west of the Mississippi. Disbursements. 17. All the disbursements required for the various objects connected with the removal of Indians will be made by officers of the Army, who will be assigned to that duty, and who will, from time to time, be furnished with funds for that purpose. 18. These officers will carry into effect the instructions of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs and of the Superintendents, so far as the same are in conformity with the general authority given by these regulations, or by special direction from the War Department. 19. Payments for all services as well as supplies will be made by these disbursing officers upon the requisition of the superintendents, or in pursuance of authority from them, or from this department. And duplicate vouchers will, in all cases, be taken, expressing fully the nature of such service and supplies, and whatever may be necessary to enable the accounting officers to judge of the propriety and reasonableness of the charge. 20. Disbursing officers may be assigned by the superintendent or the Commissioner of Indian Affairs to act also as conductors of emigrating parties. 21. The disbursing officers will transmit estimates whenever funds are required, showing in detail the application it is intended to make of such funds, together with a statement of the amount, if any, on hand, and the payments for which such amount is required, and funds will be furnished either by remission from the Treasury or by drafts upon the War Department, as the Commissioner of Indian Affairs may judge best, but no drafts shall be drawn by any officer upon the government, unless previous authority for that purpose has been given. 22. All accounts and vouchers will be transmitted to the Commissioner of Indian Affairs immediately after the close of each quarter, and abstracts of expenditures showing the application of the funds will be transmitted at the end of every month. Transportation. 23. The route and mode for transportation will be determined by the superintendent, having a just regard to economy and the health and comfort of the Indians. 24. When persons or families agree to transport themselves and are considered capable of doing so, they will be allowed a just commutation therefor, which will be fixed by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs on an examination of the probable expense. Whenever, in pursuance of treaty stipulations, or by permission of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, families or parties of Indians shall undertake to remove themselves, a roll of each of such parties or families shall be made out by the superintendent having charge of such removal in the usual form, and stating in the caption thereof the terms on which such party removes, and the amount which they have received or will be entitled to receive, a copy of which shall be immediately forwarded to the disbursing officer west, and a duplicate also forwarded to this department. And no claims for or on account of such removal will be allowed unless supported by such rolls, as well as the other usual vouchers. 25. The amount necessary to be advanced to such persons previous to their departure will be determined by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, and will be paid when they are upon the point of commencing their journey under such regulations as he may prescribe. 26. No persons except those who are too young or too infirm to travel on foot will be transported in wagons or upon horses. 27. The amount of baggage will not exceed 1,500 pounds for every 50 persons, unless specially permitted by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, nor will any wooden furniture or heavy utensils be carried. The baggage must principally consist of necessary clothing, bedding, etc., light cooking utensils, and a few tools for agricultural and mechanical purposes. And no superintendent or other agent will, without permission from the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, receive any other baggage than as herein specified, to be transported by the United States and for which they are to be responsible. 28. The baggage of each detachment will be weighed, and a certificate thereof, signed by some respectable person employed, will be transmitted with the accounts. The quantity to be carried in each wagon must, of course, depend upon the judgment of the conductor of the party, who will likewise point out the persons whose circumstances require they should ride. See Form No. 17. 29. Where the route is by water, a contract will be made, if the same can be done upon reasonable terms, for the transportation of each individual from the place of departure to the place of destination, or for as much thereof as can be effected. If this cannot be done, it will then be proper to charter a boat for the voyage at a fixed rate. And lastly, should either of the other modes be found unreasonable or impracticable, then a contract may be made for the hire of a boat by the day. But this is considered the least economical plan, and therefore not to be resorted to till the others fail. 30. Wagons will be hired at a fixed rate, by the hundred, if convenient, and if not, by the job, and where neither of these can conveniently be done, then by the day, with a previous understanding as to the weight and persons to be carried and the daily distance to be traveled. Where forage can be found by the owners, the contracts will be so made, but where it cannot be, it will be supplied by the United States. The United States will not be responsible for any accidents. 31. Forage for the teams will be purchased in the manner prescribed for other supplies, and will be issued upon returns, in the mode pointed out for provisions. The quantity will be 8 pounds of hay or fodder, and 8 quarts of corn or 12 quarts of oats for each animal per day. 32. Each detachment previously to their departure will be mustered, and muster rolls exhibiting the names of the heads of families, and the numbers and ages of the persons composing the same, distinguishing their sexes, and naming also those individuals not members of any families, will be made out and certified by the superintendent upon his personal examination, one of which shall be forwarded to the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, and another shall be delivered to the conductor of the party. On the arrival of the party west at their place of destination, a re-muster shall be made by the agent receiving the party, and the changes in the detachment shall be accounted for in a column of remarks, and the number of the party by personal examination on such muster, certified by the agent so receiving, a copy of which shall be forwarded to the Office of Indian Affairs. See Form Number 18. Supplies. 33. It is desirable that all the important supplies should be procured by contracts upon previous public notice inviting proposals, and this rule will be adhered to where there are not strong reasons to the contrary, and where there are, they will be reported to the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. 34. All contracts not immediately executed and completed, and exceeding $50 in value, will be in writing, and duplicates thereof will accompany the vouchers. Adequate security for the faithful performance of all contracts exceeding $300 in value will be required. 35. Previous to the departure of any party of emigrants, the agent having superintendence of the emigration will give seasonable notice to the dispersing officers west of the Mississippi, whose duty it is to provide for the reception and subsistence of such emigrants west, in order that proper measures may be there taken for the subsistence and transportation of such party. Such notice will state the probable number of the party, the time of its departure, the probable time of its arrival on the Mississippi, and at other points of destination, and the route which it will pursue. Strict attention to this duty will prevent much suffering, inconvenience, and expense, as the necessary consequence of throwing on the hands of the agents west large bodies of emigrants to be provided for, without notice, and from the limited supplies of that part of the country. The conductor of each party will also, from time to time, report to the proper dispersing agent west his progress on the route, and communicate all information which may be useful. 36. A principal dispersing agent will be located at Little Rock, Arkansas, and also at St. Louis, Missouri, who will perform, west of the Mississippi, all the duties necessary to the removal and subsistence of Indians in their respective limits. They will be assisted in the service by dispersing agents, who will be designated for that purpose, and will receive and execute instructions from the proper principal dispersing agent, and from the Office of Indian Affairs. 37. Special instructions will be given by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs respecting the provisions required for the subsistence of the Indians after their arrival in the country west of the Mississippi. These will, in all cases, be procured upon contract, to be based upon proposals previously issued. 38. Blankets and other articles required by treaty stipulations to be delivered to Indians, and which can be better procured in the principal commercial cities than in the interior, will be purchased by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs and forwarded for delivery to the proper agent. None but the Mackinac blankets, so called, will be procured for Indians. These are much better suited to their wants and tastes than any others. 3½ points must weigh 10 pounds per pair, 3 points 8 pounds per pair, and 2½ points 6¼ pounds per pair. 1/2 of any quantity should be 3½ points, 1/4 3 points, and 1/4 2½ points. Certificates of delivery witnessed by 2 credible persons will, in all cases, be required. Provisions. 39. The ration will consist of 1 pound of fresh beef or fresh pork, or of 3/4 of a pound of salt pork, and of 3/4 of a quart of corn or of corn meal, or of 1 pound of wheat flour to each person, and of 4 quarts of salt for every 100 persons. 40. Provisions will be issued in steamboats as frequently as convenient, to prevent their being improvidently used, and by land they will be issued once a week, or oftener, depending upon the situation of the party and upon the facility of reaching points where provisions may be deposited or purchased. On land routes, it will be proper to have depots of provisions at reasonable distances, unless where such routes are through the settled country, affording at all times, and at reasonable prices, adequate supplies. 41. These provisions will be procured either by contract as already provided, or by purchase in open market. Except in a country where supplies are abundant, and while traveling, the former mode is preferable. 42. It is recommended that contracts be previously made for issuing such quantities of provisions as may be wanted, at proper places during the collection of the Indians, and at suitable points upon the route. The contractors to be at every expense attending the delivery and distribution of the provisions, and the issues to be made under the inspection and direction of the officer having charge of the detachment, and none to be issued which are not examined and approved by him, and weighed or measured in his presence. Under such an arrangement, however, it will be necessary to ascertain, previously to the departure of any detachment, that the necessary provisions are ready, and to provide them otherwise, when there is a failure, lest the Indians might suffer where provisions could not be procured. 43. Where provisions are issued by contractors, the issues will be made upon provision returns, to be drawn by the officer having charge of the detachment, which detachment will be divided for their more convenient receipt, as he may think proper. He will abstract the whole in the usual mode at the end of each month, or sooner if the contract relating to his detachment is fulfilled, and will certify that he saw the provisions delivered, and he will take special care that the issues do not exceed the quantity due by the muster rolls. These abstracts will also be certified by some other respectable person in employment, and will, together with the contracts and the bills of parcels, form the vouchers of delivery. The provision returns will be transmitted to the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. 44. Where the provisions are not issued by the contractor, but by the officer in charge of the detachment, he will call to his aid some respectable person employed in the business, upon whom the returns will be drawn, and who will take immediate charge of the issues, and whether issued by contractors or by the conductor, the latter will see that the provisions are properly distributed to the emigrants, so that each individual shall be supplied with proper subsistence. 45. The same principles will, in like manner, regulate the issues to the Indians during the first year after their arrival at the places of their permanent residence. But as they will then be placed beyond the reach of many of those temptations which now assail them, such issues may be made at longer intervals and in larger quantities. Cattle or hogs may be delivered upon just estimates, on foot, and by these means much expense will be saved. The Indian agent will determine whether a just regard to the convenience of the Indians requires the designation of more than one place at which these issues shall be made. 46. The year within which subsistence is to be provided will commence upon the day each party arrives in the country assigned to them. The conductor and also the agent west, taking charge of such party, will immediately report to the department the arrival of every party, and will, at the same time, transmit any explanations rendered necessary by any change since the last muster. 47. Families or individuals detained by sickness or other unavoidable causes and unable to reach their destination at the same time with the party to which they belong will be allowed to draw for the term of 1 year after the termination of their journey, but those who quit their party unnecessarily will only draw as long as such party draws. Miscellaneous. 48. In the collection of the Indians, special care will be taken that sufficient previous notice is given, and a day and place of meeting assigned, and in this their wishes and opinions will be consulted, so as to allow them ample time to make all their arrangements, and in the meantime they will be reminded of the necessity of punctuality. No provisions will be issued till the arrival of the day which has been fixed for assembling, and on that day the journal of occurrences will be commenced. Every exertion will be used to set out as soon thereafter as possible. 2 weeks, if necessary, will be allowed for them to collect after the day fixed, but no longer unless some unforeseen accident happens. 49. Superintendents and disbursing agents will forward to this office on the first day of every month a statement of letters received from and written to this office on the Indian emigration and the dates of writing and reception. 50. The attention of the superintendents and disbursing agents is also drawn to the appointments of any agents whom they are authorized to appoint. As soon as they are made, this office should be advised, and the date of commencement of service, nature of duties, rate of compensation, etc., distinctly stated. 51. No purchases of sugar, tea, coffee, or of any article not embraced in the ration will be made unless deemed necessary for sick Indians. 52. Medicines will only be procured when actually required or danger from sickness is apprehended. In no instance will full medicine chests or surgical instruments be purchased. 53. No kind of property, including tools, etc., will be purchased unless it be indispensable, and it will, as soon as propriety will admit, be disposed of. 54. No presents will be made to Indians unless under the sanction of the department, and all promises will be avoided if not in the contemplation of the instructions. Accounts and accountability. 55. The accounts of the removal and subsistence of Indians are distinguished into monthly and quarterly, and the expenditures divided into 3 heads: subsistence, transportation, and contingencies. 1. Subsistence. This will consist of all kinds of subsistence for Indians: corn, beef, salt, rations, etc. 2. Transportation. This will consist of steamboat hire, wagon hire, purchases and expenses of wagons, horses, oxen, boats, purchases of forage for teams, and subsistence for teamsters, commutation of transportation, ferriages, etc. 3. Contingencies. To embrace the pay and transportation of agents, clerks, teamsters, interpreters, and expresses, the cost of tools, and of all other implements, the expense incurred in the opening of roads, hospital expenses, etc. The monthly accounts will consist alone of 3 abstracts under the above heads, and will be made for the first and second months of each quarter. The vouchers will not accompany them. The quarterly accounts will be made up in accordance with the following rules. Account current. 56. Credit the monies received from the United States and by transfer from others, and debit the amount of the 3 abstracts of disbursements and the monies transferred to others. See Form Number 1. Note: transfers of monies will be entered only on accounts current, supported by a receipt, and must not be put on any abstract of disbursements. Abstract of disbursements for subsistence. 57. Enter all purchases of subsistence for Indians, including rations received under contract and the cost of its transportation, etc. See Form Number 2. Abstract of disbursements for transportation. 58. Enter all charges appertaining to the transportation of Indians and no other kind of transportation. See transportation above and Form Number 3. Abstract of disbursements for contingencies. 59. See contingencies above and Form Number 4. Return of provision and forage. 60. Charge first the provisions from the abstract of disbursements for subsistence. Secondly, the provisions and forage from the abstract of disbursements for transportation. Credit the issues per abstract of provisions and forage issued and by sale or transferred to another agent. See Form Number 5. Abstract of provisions issued. 61. Enter first the issues of subsistence to Indians, including rations, and secondly, the issues of subsistence to others than Indians, namely teamsters, laborers, etc. This abstract will show the date of the commencement of issuing to each party and the date of its arrival in the new country. See Form Number 6. Abstract of forage issued. 62. The entries will show the kind of forage, number of horses, etc. See Form Number 7. Return of property. 63. There will be property under each of the 3 heads of disbursements, but particularly under those of transportation and of contingencies. The entries will be made from the abstract, specifying from whence derived. No return will be made of small articles of stationery. See Form Number 8. Statement of treaty articles. 64. Agents receiving articles for delivery to Indians under treaty stipulation, conditioned upon their removal, whether by purchase or transfer, will make a quarterly return thereof to the Commissioner of Indian Affairs for each tribe respectively, showing the articles received, on hand, and issued or transferred during the preceding quarter. A receipt for articles transferred from one agent to another will accompany the return as a voucher for the agent so transferring. See Form Number 9. Provision and forage checks. 65. These checks are specified returns, exhibiting the quantities actually issued. The entries will also be made on the margin to avoid errors in settlement. When an issue of provision is required, a check will be drawn by the disbursing officer on the contractor. The assistant, where one is employed, will certify on the back of the check, "I have witnessed the issue of the subsistence within required." Where one is not employed, the disbursing officer will make this certificate. The original checks will be forwarded as evidence with the accounts, and the margins kept by the agent, in case of accident to the others in their transmission. See Form Number 10. Miscellaneous. 66. Articles of agreement or contracts, will be entered into in accordance with the regulations. They will be forwarded as soon as made, a duplicate or copy being kept by the disbursing officer. 67. The vouchers of the quarterly accounts will express the nature of the purchase or service as specifically as possible. Where services are paid for, the beginning and termination must be expressed, commencing on the blank and ending on the blank, and not from blank to blank. Where the time of service was at intervals, the several periods must be explicitly named. The signatures of principals will be required except in case of absence, and then a certificate that the agent was believed to be duly authorized will answer. But where an order is given for payment, a power of attorney must be furnished, and in cases of administration, an authenticated copy of the letters. 68. Wagons and teams, when engaged, will be entered on a roll in the name of the owner, or of the person understood to be duly authorized to receipt for the wages, and the entry signed him. This will be done at the time of engagement. Anything occurring subsequently to affect the contract will be noted in the space for remarks. When there is any uncertainty, let the wagons and teams be entered upon condition of accepting as many as may be wanted, taking them in the order of the roll, provided those ordered are good and sufficient. See Form Number 12. 69. Agents will be paid compensation and expenses by the disbursing agents on the requisition of the superintendent, who will be held accountable for errors and inaccuracies, except those of calculation. See Form Number 13. 70. The rule as to compensation is that the pay of no agent will commence till he reports in person for duty to his immediate superintendent, and that pay continues till the arrival west of the Indians, who are accompanied by the agent, and no longer. The rule with regard to the transportation of agents is that they shall receive no allowance for transportation going to duty, nor whilst upon duty, at or near any point of location, but that they shall get their actual expenses traveling west with the Indians, and 10 cents a mile by the nearest route returning from that duty. Exceptions to the strictness of this rule will be specially provided for by instructions or on application to this office. Disbursing agents will be paid their actual traveling expenses in all cases upon a certificate on honor. The actual expenses of all other persons when accompanying Indians west of the Mississippi will be in detail from day to day and from place to place as specific as possible. The original memorandum will accompany the superintendent's requisition and be transmitted to this office. 71. The monthly abstracts need only be forwarded by disbursing agents who are located, except where otherwise required. 72. Particular attention should be paid to the quarterly statements of agents. This should be regularly furnished by both superintendent and disbursing agent, and should exhibit a succinct account of the duties and labors of every person employed. See Form Number 14. 73. Too much care cannot be taken to note correctly the distances traveled and charged for. Let them always be stated on the best authority. Where they are not found on the post office book and a post route is traveled, the certificate of the postmaster should, if convenient, be procured. 74. The ferriage accounts will be certified by the conductors of parties. They will in every case state distinctly the number of Indians, wagons, ponies, etc., with the cost of the ferriage of each one. As ferriages are very expensive, it will be advisable for the disbursing agent, conductor, etc., according to circumstances, to make an agreement for all that may pass over ferries at a reduced price. This has been done heretofore and resulted in a great saving to the United States. 75. Estimates of funds in detail for the next quarter will be forwarded regularly by the disbursing agent so as to reach Washington at least 20 days before the expiration of the current quarter. No item will be inserted in the estimate unless it be expressly authorized by this office. See Form Number 15. J.R. Poinsett, Secretary of War, War Department, May 13, 1837. End of Section 56. Read by Elsie Selwyn. Section 57 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. List of forms referred to in the preceding regulations. 1. Account current. 2. Abstract of disbursements on account of subsistence. 3. Abstract of disbursements on account of transportation. 4. Abstract of disbursements on account of contingencies. 5. Return of provisions and forage. 6. Abstract of provisions issued. 7. Abstract of forage issued. 8. Return of property. 9. Statement of treaty articles. 10. Provision and forage check. 11. Bills of parcels. 12. Roll of wagons and teams. 13. Agents' accounts for services. 14. Quarterly statement of agents. 15. Estimate of funds. 16. Abstract of disbursements for subsistence or transportation or contingencies. 17. Baggage certificate. 18. Muster roll. In addition to the above, the following papers will be required, but as to the forms of which the agents and others will be governed by their own views. Weekly report, see paragraph 5. Journal of occurrences, see paragraph 8. End of section 57, read by Elsie Selwyn. Section 58 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 1. The United States in account current. Debit. The United States in account current with blank on account of the removal and subsistence of Indians for the quarter ending the blank day of blank 1830 blank. Credit. Date. Dollars. Cents. Date. Dollars. Cents. I certify that the above account of monies received and expended by me in the period above stated is just and true. End of section 58, read by Elsie Selwyn. Section 59 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 2. Abstract of Disbursements on account of subsistence. Abstract of Disbursements on account of subsistence by blank. Agent of the United States for the removal and subsistence of the Indians, in the quarter ending the blank day of blank 1830 blank. Footnote. See paragraphs 55 and 57 from section 56. End footnote. Date. Number of voucher. To whom paid. Pork. Barrels. Pounds. Beeves, number and estimated weight. Slaughtered beef, pounds. Flour, barrels, pounds. Cornmeal, pounds. Corn, bushels, quarts. Salt, bushels, quarts. Rations, number. Amount, dollars, cents. Remarks. I certify on honor that the above abstract is just and true. Note, When any charge is made for which there is no head, to wit, for transportation of subsistence, it may be described in the space for remarks. End of section 59, read by Elsie Selwyn. Section 60 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 3. Abstract of Disbursements for Transportation. Abstract of Disbursements for Transportation by blank, Agent of the United States for the removal and subsistence of Indians in the quarter ending the blank day of blank 1830 blank. Footnote. See paragraphs 55 and 58 in section 56. End footnote. Date, number of voucher, to whom paid, for what paid, amount, remarks. I certify on honor that the above abstract is just and true. End of section 60, read by Elsie Selwyn.
Section 61 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Sophia Kaushik. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 4. Abstract of Disbursements for Contingencies. Abstract of Disbursements for Contingencies by blank, Agent of the United States for the removal and subsistence of Indians for the quarter ending the blank day of blank 1830 blank. Footnote. See paragraphs 55 and 59. End footnote. Date, number of voucher, to whom paid, for what paid, amount, remarks. I certify on honor that the above abstract is just and true. End of section 61. Section 62 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Sophia Kaushik. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form Number 5. Return of Provisions and Forage. Return of provisions and forage received by blank and issued to the removing blank Indians blank at blank in the quarter ending the blank day of blank 1830 blank. Date, number of voucher, from whom received. Pork, barrels, pounds. Beef, pounds. Flour, barrels, pounds. Corn, bushels, quarts. Cornmeal, bushels, quarts. Salt, rations. Remarks. Total to be accounted for. Total issued. Balance on hand. I certify on honor that the above return is correct. End of section 62. Section 63 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Sophia Kaushik. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form number 6. Abstract of provisions issued by blank to the removing blank Indians at the blank in the blank quarter ending the blank day of blank 1830 blank. Date. Number of persons. Days drawn for. Commencing. Ending. Rations of pork. Rations of beef. Rations of flour. Rations of corn. Rations of cornmeal. Remarks. Total rations. Barrels, pounds. Pounds. Barrels, pounds. Barrels, pounds. Bushels, quarts. Quantity in bulk. Footnote. See paragraphs 43 and 61. End footnote. I certified that the above-mentioned provisions were issued to the Indians as above stated. End of section 63. Section 64 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Sophia Kaushik. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form number 7. Abstract of Forage issued. Abstract of Forage issued by blank to the horses and employed in the removal of the blank Indians during the quarter ending the blank day of blank 1830 blank. Date. Number of voucher. Number of horses and days drawn for. Commencing. Ending. Rations of corn. Rations of. Remarks. Total number of rations. Bushels, quarts. Bushels, quarts. Pounds. Quantity in bulk. Footnote. See paragraphs 31 and 62. End footnote. I certify on honor that the above-mentioned forage was issued as stated. End of section 64.
Section 65 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form number 8. Return of property received and issued. Number 8. Return of property received and issued by blank, agent in the removal and subsistence of blank Indians in the quarter ending blank 1830 blank. Series of 8 columns. Date, number of voucher, from whom received, 4 columns for dollars and cents, blank column. Underneath this, total received, with 4 columns for dollars and cents. Second table, 8 columns. Date, number of voucher, to whom issued, 4 columns for dollars and cents, blank column. Underneath, total amount issued, with 4 columns for dollars and cents, total amount on hand, with 4 columns for dollars and cents. End table. I certify on honor that the above return is correct. Signed blank of the removal and subsistence blank Indians. Note, fill up the property list alphabetically. End of section 65. Read by stepheather, Bangalore, India, 14th of November, 2025.
Section 66 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Claire. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form number 9, Statement of the Articles due the blank Indians. Statement of the Articles due the Indians under the stipulations in the blank article of the Treaty of 1830 blank with that tribe received by, and the disposition made of the same for the quarter ending. Date of reception, from whom and when received, on hand per last statement. Remarks. Total received and on hand this quarter. Date of transfer, to whom issued or transferred. Issued per abstract, A. Transferred to per receipt. Total issued, balance on hand. End of section 66. Section 67 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Claire. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form number 10, Provision or Forage Return. Number of blank, number of blank, rations, dated at 1830 blank. Number, return for emigrating Indians for blank days, commencing on the blank day of blank and ending on the blank day of blank, 1830 blank, inclusive. Number of days. The blank will issue, dated at blank, 1830 blank. End of section 67. Section 68 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Claire. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form number 11, the United States to blank. Date, dollars, cents. The above account is approved and the disbursing agent is hereby required to pay the same as stated. Dated this blank, day of blank, superintendent. Received blank, 1830 blank of, agent for the United States for the removal and subsistence of blank Indians, dollars and cents in full of the above account. End of section 68. Section 69 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Claire. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Form number 12, a roll of wagons and teams employed in the removal of the blank Indians. A roll of wagons and teams employed in the removal of the blank Indians, commencing blank, ending blank. Party conducted by blank and under the superintendence of blank. The undersigned agree to furnish to blank, agent of the United States when required within blank days, the wagons and teams set opposite to our names in this roll, both to be of good quality and sufficient to haul, the distance required 1,500 pounds, the United States to be liable for no accidents of any descriptions. Days of entry, signatures of owners, witness, commencing, ending, number of days employed, number of horses or oxen, pay per day going and returning, amount paid, receipt, witness, remarks. I certify that the teams above paid for were entered in the names of the persons authorized to receive pay for the same. Approved blank. Disbursing agent, blank. Special agent and superintendent. End of section 69.
Section 70 of Annual Report for the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by David Lawrence in Ottawa, Ontario. September 2025. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Section 70. Form number 13, Pay and Expenses Chit. The United States, blank, to blank, debit. For his pay at blank in the removal and sustenance of blank Indians, commencing on the blank day of blank, 18 blank, and ending on the blank day of blank, 18 blank, being blank days at blank dollars per day. For his actual expenses for transportation and subsistence while attending detachment of emigrating Indians west, for blank days, commencing on the blank day of blank, 18 blank, and ending on the blank day of blank, 18 blank, as per memorandum herewith. For his return traveling allowance from blank to blank, being blank miles at 10 cents per mile. To blank disbursing agent of the blank Emigration. Sir, the foregoing account of blank is approved, and you are hereby required to pay the same as stated above. Dated this blank day of blank, 18 blank. Blank Superintendent. Received this blank day of blank, 18 blank, of blank disbursing agent for the emigration of the blank Indians, blank dollars and blank cents, in full of the above account. Signed duplicates. End of section 70. Section 71 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Section 71. Form number 14. Quarterly Statement of Agents and Others employed in the removal and subsistence of the blank Indians, for the quarter ending blank 1830 blank, by blank Special Agent. Note, 6 columns in this form, headings as follows, left to right. Number, names, stations, dates of employment, compensation, remarks, showing the nature of the employment, what business was performed during the quarter, etc. End of section 71. Section 72 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. By the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Section 72. Form number 15. Estimate of funds required in the removal and subsistence of the blank Indians for the quarter ending 1830 blank, with the application in detail intended to be made of them by blank. Note: this blank form contains only a column at the right side of the form with descriptions of 2 rows for totals. Deduct amount estimated to remain on hand. Amount required. End of section 72. Section 73 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Section 73. Form number 16. Monthly abstract of disbursement for the subsistence of the Indians for the month of blank, 1830 blank by blank. Note: columns across left to right. Date, to whom paid, for what paid, dollars, cents. Remarks, showing whether the payments will continue, how long, the necessity for their continuance, what addition may become necessary, or reduction will be made, distinguishing between payments for the consumption or use of the present month and for succeeding months, etc. I certify on honor that the above abstract is just and true. Blank, signed. Dated blank 1st, 1830 blank. In the removal and subsistence of the Indians. Bottom note: an abstract under each of the headings of subsistence, transportation, and contingencies is required monthly. See paragraph 22. End of section 73. Section 74 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Section 74, Form number 17, Baggage Certificate. I hereby certify that I have seen the baggage of a company of blank Indians about to remove west to the Mississippi under the direction of blank weighed, and that said baggage weighed blank pounds and did not exceed the amount allowed by regulations. Dated blank 1830 blank. Signed blank. See paragraph 28. End of section 74. Section 75 of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by David Lawrence in Ottawa, Ontario, November 2025. Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Section 75, Form number 18, Muster Roll of a company of blank Indians about to immigrate west of the Mississippi River, under the direction of blank. First column heading is Names of Heads of Families. Next 8 columns are under the main heading of number and ages of Indians. Males, 4 columns. Under 10, of 10 and under 25, of 25 and under 50, and over 50. Females, 4 columns. Under 10, of 10 and under 25, of 25 and under 50, over 50. Next 2 columns under heading of number of slaves, 1 for male, next females. Next column heading, total number. Last column heading, remarks. Under the previous columns, I certify that I have examined the above roll. Signed, Enrolling Agent. Signed, Special Agent and Superintendent. Note, the names of individuals not belonging to any family will be distinguished by an asterisk. See paragraph 2. End of section 75. End of Annual Report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, December 1837, by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs.